So as you can see, today we're covering Chapter 11. And if you haven't watched the previous part yet, or you're new to the series, I've linked the video covering Chapters 1 through 10 down below, so make sure to check that out first. But with that out of the way, and without wasting any more time, let's jump straight into it. Hearing her words, Juwon's eyes widened slightly in surprise. And before Lizzie could even process what was happening, this absolute mountain of a man suddenly stepped forward and pulled her into a deep embrace like he was starring in the final episode of a romance drama. As he held her tightly against his chest, he spoke softly, his voice filled with sincerity. "Thank you." He gently patted her back, trying to calm her trembling body, but inside, Juwon felt an overwhelming mix of guilt and relief crashing into him at the same time. "Why is she thanking me?" he thought quietly. "If anyone should be grateful here, it's me." Lizzie froze completely from the sudden hug. Her brain basically blue screened for a second. But before the emotional moment could continue any longer, a tiny whimper echoed from the ruined doorway of the cabin. Little Dorothy was still standing there crying beside the broken wood. The sound instantly snapped Lizzie back to reality. She turned in panic and pointed toward the cabin. Juwon, Dorothy. Without wasting another second, Lizzie broke away and sprinted across the grass like her life depended on it. Juwon simply watched as she rushed into the cabin and dropped to the little girl's level. "Dorothy, are you okay?" Dorothy stood frozen on top of a wooden crate, trembling uncontrollably. Even though she was safe now, her little brain was still replaying the terrifying sight of Juwon absolutely folding grown men like laundry outside. I was the one who asked for help, but those fists were terrifying. Dark memories resurfaced in her mind. The swollen faces of her stepmother and Lizzie keep coming to her mind. Faces covered in red, blue, and yellow bruises. The horrifying thought that her own face might end up looking like that one day paralyzed her with fear. "You mustn't cry," Dorothy told herself desperately as tears welled up in her eyes. "If you cry, you'll get beaten even more. And I need to apologize to Lizzie right away and tell her I was wrong before she starts treating me like a ghost, just like my stepmother used to do." Unable to hold back her tears any longer, Dorothy stepped down and cried out, "Lizzie, I'm sorry for hiding instead of helping you." She ran frantically across the room. "So, please don't leave me alone. It was my fault." Lizzie was caught completely off guard. She immediately dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around the crying child, pulling her into a deep, protective hug. "Dorothy, what are you talking about?" Lizzie thought, her heart breaking at the child's desperate apology. "When our eyes met earlier, I only pretended not to know you," Lizzie explained softly, tears streaming down her own face as she held the little girl tight, "because I was afraid those men would find you. Dorothy has absolutely nothing to feel guilty about. Nothing at all." Dorothy looked up from Lizzie's shoulder, her large eyes still wet. "Really? You were scared, right?" Lizzie reassured her gently, offering a warm smile. "But everything is fine now, because Papa is here." Suddenly, Dorothy blinked in innocent confusion. "Papa, but my dad died." Lizzie froze, staring at the child in absolute disbelief. "Dorothy, don't you know who Juwon is?" she thought, stunned by the revelation. Completely oblivious to the shock she had just caused, Dorothy simply tilted her head and stated, "Juwon is Kim Jong-un." Lizzie let out a soft chuckle, offering the child a warm smile. "And Lizzie's husband." "I know that," she explained gently. "That's right. Juwon is my husband. So that makes him Dorothy's papa." Dorothy stared blankly, the gears slowly turning in her little head. "Papa." Seeing her confusion, Lizzie tried to break it down simply. "I'm Dorothy's stepmother, right?" "Yes," Dorothy nodded. "So, since Dorothy is my daughter, Juwon becomes Dorothy's papa." Suddenly, it clicked. Dorothy's eyes went wide as saucers, her jaw dropping in utter disbelief as she shouted, "No way!" She frantically looked back and forth between Lizzie and the doorway where Juwon was waiting outside. "Papa, is he my papa?" "Yes," Lizzie confirmed, gently stroking the little girl's hair. Dorothy's mind began to race as a completely new understanding washed over her. "Juwon is different from your old father who died," she realized. "He isn't someone who beats us, he's someone who protects us." The terrifying scene from just moments ago suddenly made sense in a beautiful new light. So the reason Juwon beat those scary men so brutally was because he is Dorothy's papa? Because I asked him to help? Overwhelmed with a sudden burst of emotion, Dorothy bolted past Lizzie and rushed out the cabin door. "Papa!" she screamed at the top of her lungs. Hearing her voice, Juwon turned around in surprise. As Dorothy sprinted across the grass toward him, her heart swelled with pure, innocent joy. Someone with a huge face, a huge body, and huge hands and feet is Dorothy's papa, she thought, her face beaming with the brightest smile. A super strong and amazing papa who protects Dorothy and Lizzie. All the happy memories they had shared recently rushed back to her. He doesn't beat me. He holds me tight at night when we sleep together. He smiles at me. He gives me meat and even gave me a name. Running as fast as her little legs could carry her, Dorothy couldn't contain her happiness. To think that the person who gave me my name is my papa. How wonderful. Papa! Dorothy shouted again, running at full speed toward Juwon. Caught completely off guard by the sudden charge, Juwon turned around just in time to catch her as she leaped into his arms. He lifted her up, wrapping her in a warm, tight embrace. Though he still couldn't understand her language, the pure joy and affection in her voice transcended words. Dorothy keeps shouting words I don't know, Juwon thought, smiling gently as she clung to him. They are definitely words I don't know, but I feel like I understand what they mean. However, as he held her affectionately, a sudden familiar scent caught his attention. He paused, sniffing the air slightly. Huh? What's that smell? A moment later, he felt a distinct, warm dampness soaking through the sleeve of his shirt. He looked down, realizing exactly what had happened. Ah, Dorothy, she peed herself. Completely unbothered, Dorothy just looked up at him with a wide, beaming smile, letting out a cheerful little giggle. Juwon's heart melted, completely unable to be mad at her. She looks so radiant and innocent that I almost feel bad for noticing she peed herself, he thought with a soft sigh. Shaking off the surprise, his paternal instincts immediately kicked in. I need to change her clothes right now, or she'll catch a cold. Carrying her securely in his arms, Juwon walked back over to Lizzie, and the three of them shared a bright, heartwarming family hug. Their previous fears finally washed away. But the tender moment didn't last long. Over Juwon's shoulder, Dorothy's large eyes suddenly locked onto something in the distance. The meat! She gasped. Her priorities instantly shifting, she yelled, Meat! And abruptly wriggled right out of Juwon's arms, dropping to the grass. Dorothy! Juwon called out in surprise, completely ignoring him and paying absolutely no mind to the unconscious thugs scattered across the lawn. Dorothy sprinted at top speed across the grass. She skidded to a halt in front of a wooden bucket, her eyes sparkling as she stared down at the large, precious slabs of raw meat waiting inside. Reaching the wooden bucket, Dorothy grabbed its thick edges and pushed with all her tiny strength. The heavy barrel slowly tilted forward, wobbling dangerously as she struggled to control it. But the bucket was far too heavy for her little body. The moment it started tipping toward her, Dorothy's eyes widened in panic as she realized she was about to get crushed beneath it. Dorothy! The moment the massive bucket started wobbling, Juwon and Lizzie immediately panicked and ran toward her as fast as they could, convinced the tiny girl was about to get flattened. Dorothy herself looked absolutely terrified, desperately clinging to the edge of the barrel while tears formed in her eyes. But then, something unbelievable happened. Instead of getting crushed, Dorothy suddenly tightened her grip, puffed up her cheeks, and somehow stopped the giant bucket from falling. Not only that, the little gremlin actually started dragging the ridiculously heavy container across the yard with pure determination. Stepping up behind the little girl, Juwon effortlessly reached down and lifted the heavy bucket into the air. Wow! Dorothy gasped. She looked up at him as if he were a hero, her eyes practically glowing with absolute admiration. Juwon looked down at her idolizing, star-struck stare. To get a look like that from a child over a single container of meat, he mused inwardly. Becoming a hero is remarkably easy. Then Lizzie spoke up, intending to wrap up the situation. Bring the meat inside now. Understanding the need to secure the area, Lizzie pointed toward the cabin door. Take Dorothy inside too, since it's dangerous out here, she instructed. As Juwon carried the bucket toward the cabin, the little girl happily skipped right behind him, cheering, Meat! After safely depositing the food and the girls inside, Juwon stood in the doorway and let out a heavy, exhausted sigh. But his work for the night wasn't quite finished. His expression hardened as he turned back around. With slow, heavy footsteps, Juwon walked back out into the yard, looming over the scattered bodies of the thugs. At his feet, one of the beaten men stirred in the grass, letting out a weak, pained groan. As the red-haired man groaned weakly in the grass, Juwon's expression instantly darkened. A terrifying, murderous shadow fell over his eyes. He stepped forward, fully intending to end the threat once and for all. But before he could strike, the old man suddenly rushed in front of him, throwing his arms out wide to block Juwon's path. Speaking firmly in his native tongue, the old man pleaded, You must not beat or kill people anymore. Juwon stopped, his heavy gaze fixed on the old man. Are you telling me not to kill them? he thought to himself. The intense rage simmering inside him slowly began to cool as reason took over. He realized the old man was right. It would be a problem if I were arrested or turned into a slave again. He glanced back toward the cabin, knowing that Lizzie and Dorothy were waiting for him inside. You bastards, he thought, looking down at the unconscious men with lingering disgust. Because I'm not alone anymore. His eyes narrowed with a chilling finality. But I will remember your faces perfectly. If our paths cross again, a fate worse than death will be waiting for you. With his decision made, Juwan gave the old man a small nod of understanding. However, his eyes drifted to a heavy wooden crate the thugs had tried to steal. I should at least take these, he noted calmly, stepping past the old man to pick it up. These are essential items in the mountains, where you have to be self-sufficient. Hoisting the large crate onto his shoulder, Juwan finally turned his back on the defeated men and walked toward the cabin. As he stepped through the doorway, he was greeted by the warm glow of the hearth. There, sitting safely on the floor, were Lizzie and Dorothy. The moment Juwan saw them, the cold hardness in his eyes melted away, replaced by a soft, genuine smile. He set the heavy crate down on the floor and opened it, revealing a set of sturdy metal tools inside. As he gripped the handle of a heavy hammer, a profound sense of determination settled deep within his chest. Losing a family once is more than enough, Juwan thought, reflecting on the painful past he had left behind in his old world. He stood up and turned back to face Lizzie and Dorothy, who were looking up at him with bright, joyful smiles, their arms open and welcoming. Looking at his new family, Juwan made a silent, unbreakable vow to himself. No matter what happens, at the very least, I will protect these two. And just like that, we're all caught up again, kids. This manhwa gets a new chapter every Tuesday, so please don't storm my comment section like starving goblins asking for part 6, 7, 5 minutes after this uploads. The manhwa name is in the description and pinned comment. And one more thing. Yes, I know I haven't made a new manga recap for a very freaking long time, but don't worry, I might come back with a brand new manga soon. Maybe. Possibly. If my laziness allows it. I'm probably gonna lose my last few subscribers. Well, anyway, you already know what to do. See ya.